What is going on, YouTube? According to my YouTube analytics, my demographic of age viewed on this is 99% male and about 25 years old to about 50 is the sweet spot for age. That was just something I wanted to release with you guys because I noticed that earlier, and that gave me a good idea to talk about this topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Now, I know a lot of people my age, going on 36 years old and stuff, remember back when, comics were out, trading cards with X-Men were on it, and video games really were starting to take hold and becoming more popular. Well, a lot of people called us nerds for liking that stuff. I mean, back then you probably wouldn't be, you got to a certain age and you probably wouldn't be caught dead wearing like an Iron Man shirt, or you wouldn't be caught dead wearing a Zelda shirt, or, anything like that, because it was really kind of frowned upon. And that's why I think that culture nowadays has really been improving when it comes to opening their mind to what is not, not so... Everybody can like what they want to like now. Now, granted, there is still people out there that judge you a lot, and granted that, that's always going to happen, so there's nothing to do with that. But I kind of wanted to talk more about today is just about how things are so different now than they used to be. Now, I remember growing up, when I was probably about my teenage years, it was Adidas, Nike, kind of like nowadays where you wanted to wear that shirts like that or clothing like that at school, because otherwise, you didn't want to be made fun of. You kind of wanted to fit in more. And as everybody knows, as being a nerd and a geek and stuff like that, it's a very awkward time. And for the most part, you just want to belong with everybody else. So as though you might not be good at sports as much or anything else, but to be with the jocks, but you just wanted to fit in. Even if it wasn't the most popular, you just didn't want to be in the end. But like I said, the culture nowadays is everybody's talking about their likes and stuff like that, and they're more acceptable to some of it. And I mentioned that obviously there is going to be people out there that are still going to call you nerds. They're still going to do that. There's always bullies. There's always people like that, the alphas and everything. But watching like Henry Cavill and how he geeks out talking about Warhammer, and how supposedly the rumors were going around that a lot of times he's getting cut from these movies and stuff, is not because he's hard to deal with as an actor in general, but because he knows the source material for a lot of this stuff, for like Superman, for Witcher and stuff like that. And when people start going off source, kind of start doing their own thing and really don't reflect as much on what the characters are, he kind of says, yeah, I don't want to do this. I want to keep near to that stuff. And like, there was one, God, I can't remember. I think he was on a Felicia show. I can't remember her name for sure. Was it Felicia Day or whatever? But she was a big Dungeons and Dragons geek. It's a girl too. But Henry was on there talking about Warhammer and, just totally geeking out. And if anybody knows him, he is built, man. He is like definite Sigma, if you guys know all these Greek terms. But it was really cool seeing something like that, like somebody you would not expect to totally geek out on stuff like that. I can't remember the football player now. There was a football player that was doing autographs one day, and he said that he would not autograph anything. A professional football player, American football, sorry guys, NFL, but he would not sign anything unless it was anime based. He was a huge anime fan, and he would not sign anything unless you brought it in and it was anime based. It could be a statue, could be anything like that. But it made me laugh because I was like, really? Like, thinking about when I was younger and stuff like that, you almost had to be kind of like, you had to be a little nervous about people finding out that you liked to read books, or that you liked, Final Fantasy, you liked RPG style games, you liked, Pokemon at an older age too, not being 10 years old and anything or like that, but being like in your late teens and maybe even your early adulthood, you were still playing and liking Pokemon. You almost had to be secret about that. And some people weren't, and I'm sure they got made fun of for it, but I remember just stuff like that, like not wanting to be caught dead for people knowing I liked Pokemon in high school. Like, I used to play it on the bus on the ride home when I lived out in the country before I got my license. And nowadays, like I said, with that NFL player in anime, My oldest son is going to be 18 here in September. And he legitly likes anime. He likes all that stuff. He loves football, plays football and everything like that too. But even like his girlfriend even watches anime with him. And for the most part, I mean, if she didn't like it, she wouldn't watch it, I guess. But unless she likes him that much that she's willing to, suffer through it. But it's not just him. Like, you watch, like, on TikToks, Instagrams, you see reels of all these based, I think one more meme I've seen a lot lately is Akira has been popping up in a lot of memes, which is, like, unheard of. That was, like, one of the first, like, crazy animes I ever saw, besides, Dragon Ball Z. Now, that's the other thing. Like, I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan growing up, and I didn't want people to know that, especially when I got older. But I'm trying to think, too. But, yeah, like Bleach. And then, yeah, it's crazy. Inuyasha, just crazy seeing how these anime and superheroes. Now, I think this is one thing, this is what I wanted to kind of roll this conversation into, and I think this was a big improvement in people being more acceptable to this stuff. So, Iron Man came out and hit the world by storm. I mean, everybody was loving Marvel. Everybody was wanting to see superheroes. Iron Man came out, Captain America came out, and then Thor came out, and then it was almost like Marvel cannot put out a bad movie. That was all until this last phase that's been coming out in the TV shows, if you ask me. But everybody was going to these movies, not just the nerds anymore. Not just like just the straight up nerds, like, oh, Iron Man's out, and like some of the, even when they started releasing, heroes like Guardians of the Galaxy that no one really ever heard of. Everybody was loving it because they were so into Marvel. And like I said, Disney and Marvel could not do wrong. Excuse me. And I think that's one reason why, or one big push for this next generation, and with as accessible as anime is nowadays. Like one other thing was, when I was younger, all you could really watch it on was Cartoon Network, and that was like in the afternoon. So I'd get off the bus and you'd watch Reboot, Johnny Quest, Ronin Warriors, Dragon Ball Z, and then I'm trying to think of any of the other ones then. But that was the only way to watch it, unless you would go and actually buy the VHSs, because otherwise it would not be popping up there. I know when Adult Swim kind of took over a little bit more when I was getting closer to high school, they had more of the cooler stuff on then, but then they started having like Aqua Teen Hunger Force and everything. And like I said, I'm pretty sure like the Marvel and stuff, when it took off, that's really what pushed this stuff. People were buying comics then. They were actually studying, superheroes that they never heard of. It wasn't like I don't want to offend anybody. Like, it wasn't like rolling into a comic book store and getting there and a bunch of bigger nerds who probably didn't have deodorant on, or it wasn't like that's what people were picturing in their minds whenever you talk about this stuff, that you're a nerd for it. And with, like I said, this generation coming up and the way that the culture is today, especially talking about pop culture now from when I was a kid, these young guys are eating this crap up. And like I just remember talking about some of the stuff, and then even like kids that are in their early 20s, late teens, know some of the stuff I'm talking about. And when Dragon Ball Z made a huge comeback, and I had somebody talking to me about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know all about that. And they're like, well, how do you know about that? And I was like, well, when I was your age, Dragon Ball Z was just becoming huge over in the States, and so I watched live on Cartoon Network the first time that Goku ever went Super Saiyan and everything. And seeing some of those popular actors like Henry Cavill and all these guys showing off their geeking out in interviews, geeking out on live television, and just in general geeking out on social media, it's become so much more enriched and so much more judge-free zone. In fact, I've seen people, when you say that you don't like certain animes, actually get mad at you because it's like, no, that's the anime to watch right now. And I just want to end the videos there. So, like I said, my popular age demographic for my analytics said that from 99% male from about 25 to 50, 99% males watch. But the popular age itself is from 25 to 50 years old, which, you know, is about my range, 36 years old. And I want to know what you guys think about this, because, like I said, it might be different because I grew up at the late part of the 80s, so I don't really have too much memories from it. I was basically just a 90s kid. But growing up in the 80s too, now I know arcades were huge, and a lot of people were flocking to arcades. But was it more frowned upon to do certain stuff? Like, I know Dungeons and Dragons was huge, and that really took off in the 80s and stuff like that. And I remember being in high school and trying to get a Dungeons and Dragons group together, but nobody wanted to do it because that's what nerds and geeks did. And I want to know what you guys think. Was that something that was kind of frowned upon too? I know Stranger Things, they talked about, you know, how it seemed a little bit more popular. Granted, they might have been in a bigger city than me. I grew up in a town of like 600 people. But I want to know what you guys think about this, and I want to know what your experiences are growing up with this stuff. Was it frowned upon to geek out in public, to nerd about stuff? Did you kind of have to hide it because you wanted to feel more accepted and not judged? And I just want to hear any stories that you guys have about when you were younger. Like I said, I hated the fact that it's an awkward time in your life when you're a teenager, and I was a huge Pokemon fan, but I hated the fact that I had to hide that I was a huge Pokemon fan. And I really love that nowadays with YouTube, social media, and stuff like that. And getting that, what do I want to say, aging to the part where I'm matured enough to know that I don't care what people think anymore. I'm going to talk about what I like and show off what I like, whether it be going out in public with my Mario tattoo or my Mario shirt on, or, you know, stuff like that, and just not caring what people think anymore. And like I said, I just want to know what you guys think about this subject. So please make sure you comment below and let me know. I love to read you guys' comments. Like I say in every video, I try to reply to every comment that's made. I don't really try, I actually do reply to the original comments. I may miss some replies if you guys do it because I'm trying to comment on all the other stuff, but I try to focus on that stuff because I want to interact. I want to connect with you people. And so just let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this subject. Do you think it's a lot cooler? Do you think it's more acceptable nowadays to be able to geek out and nerd about stuff? Or do you think it's still kind of frowned upon? And also let me know some experiences from your youth, whether or not, you know, you had to hide this stuff, or am I just oblivious to the fact that there was a lot more nerds back then and I just didn't know about it? So comment below, guys. As always, stay retro, my friends, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.